Almost Skinnybones, Chapter 5. It was the worst day of my life, the absolute worst. Even after school, things just kept going straight downhill. "Will someone please tell Ernest Wilson to go home?" I shouted when I walked in the door that afternoon. He followed me home from the corner, and he's sitting on the step, waiting for me to show him the giant yellow kitty. My mother didn't answer. I got up and peeked out the window. Now he's in the new lounge chair. He's got his feet all over it. That ought to get her, I thought. Mention feet in a chair, and my mother goes nuts. I sat down at the table and waited for her to rush outside and shoo Ernest away. I wondered if she'd use her broom and chase him around the yard. "Come on, Mom," I screeched when she still hadn't come. "Do something! Aren't you going to do something? I didn't bother to finish. Right in the middle of my yelling, I spotted her note on the refrigerator. "Dear Alex, I got called in to work today. Should be home by 4. Don't eat a lot of junk. Mom." Great. Just great. The absolute worst day of my life and no one home to talk to. A guy could explode. Keeping a day like this all bottled up inside. It'd serve her right, too. I growled out loud. It'd serve her right if she came home and found me exploded all over the kitchen. A knock came at the back door. I opened it just wide enough for my lips. "Go home, Ernest. I told you before, there's no giant yellow kitty." "Yes, there is too a kitty," insisted Ernest, running to the door and trying to force his way in the crack. "I saw it on the TV. I rolled my eyes. "It's not a TB, Ernest. It's a TV. And the giant yellow kitty was just for the commercial. I don't own it. It's not mine, okay?" Ernest put his face and nose all over the glass, trying to see inside. "You're making a disgusting mess on the window, Ernest," I told him. "Will you go home if I give you my autograph?" I'm not sure he knew what an autograph was, but he nodded yes. I grabbed a felt tip marker. Then I went outside and wrote my name on Ernest's arm. He went home happy. But I still wasn't. Ever since English class, all I wanted to do was run home and try to get the sound of Annabelle's laughing out of my brain. And I wanted to talk everything over with my mother. And then she'd feel really sorry for me and pat me on the head and tell me I'd never have to go back to junior high again. And then I could quit school and get a job stabbing trash with a pointy stick in the city park. But no, I said out loud again. Where is she when I need her? At stupid work, that's where. At stupid work, leaving me alone with no one to talk to, no one to pat me on the head, no one to call the city park and see if there are any trash stabbing jobs available. Well, okay, that wasn't quite true. There was someone home. It wasn't someone I wanted, though. Not someone I wanted at all. She walked into the room and sat down beside me. I looked the other way and pretended not to notice. She didn't give up, though. I knew she wouldn't give up. She would just sit there like she always does, waiting, patiently waiting, until finally I'd give in and tell her my problems. But not this time, I thought. This time I refused to talk. The last thing I need is for someone else to start laughing at me. I've had enough laughing to last me a lifetime. I pulled my knees up to my chest and buried my head. I pretended she wasn't there. That's what I'd do. I'd keep my problems hidden inside and not say a word. She couldn't sit there forever, could she? She'd have to get discouraged sometime. I'm not sure how long I stayed balled up like that. All I know is that after a while I started to get stiffed. Then I lost the feeling in my left foot. Was she still there or wasn't she? I had to know. I peeked out from between my knees. She was still there, all right. She caught me looking at her and winked. "Oh, okay, Fluffy, you win. I'll tell you what happened, but I'm not kidding. If you start to laugh, I'm putting you outside, and I'm locking the doors and not going to let you in." They made us think it was Mom this whole time, but it was actually Fluffy he was going to talk to. "Ooh, not going to let you in until morning. Do you understand, Fluffy? Morning!" After that, it just came pouring out about how I thought this commercial was going to be the best thing that ever happened to me, only now it was the worst, and how everyone had laughed at me in English class, and how in my other classes hardly anyone had even seen the commercial, and how Ernest Wilson had followed me home screaming, "It's the kitty boy! It's the kitty boy!" Fluffy rubbed her head against my foot. I think she was trying to be sympathetic. "You should have heard him, Fluff," I continued. "Hey, kitty boy, how come you ran away from home with that giant yellow kitty cat? How come you couldn't lift that big bag of food? Weren't you strong enough?" That's when it started. At first, I just thought she had a frog in her throat or something. But after a few seconds, it was pretty clear that Fluffy was starting to chuckle. Oh, sure, she tried to make it seem like she was purring, but her mouth was drawn up in this twisted little grin. I didn't waste a second. Before she knew what was happening, I picked her up and rushed her to the back door. Then I gave her the old heave-ho. After that, I ran around, locked all the doors and windows. Oh, this may seem crazy, locking all the doors and window, but that's how I felt. Everything was falling apart, and I didn't care how stupid I was acting. I'd act any stupid way I wanted to. I was running around like a lunatic, slamming things around and yelling. I wasn't talking to my Harriet, but almost. When the front doorbell started ringing, I was still going strong. "Give me a break, cat," I screamed from the other side of the door. "You don't actually think I'm going to fall for that old doorbell ringing trick, do you? The one where you ring the bell with your tail, and I'm supposed to think it's a person, and open the door, and then you run inside and hide?" The bell rang again. "Give up, Fluffo," I screeched. "You can ring the bell until your tail falls off, but the door stays locked." I heard a knock. "Hey, I've got an idea. Why don't you try laughing your way in? You're good at laughing, aren't you, Fluffy?" "Alex, I'm going to stand here about 2 more seconds, and then I'm going to come inside and kill you. Do you hear me? Now open this door, and open it now!" Oh no, something was very wrong. A key was unlocking the door. I didn't even have time to take cover. My mother rushed inside and hit me on the head with the evening newspaper. "Thanks, I needed that," I said, rubbing my head. "Don't tell me," she exploded. "Let me guess. You thought I was the cat, right? There are places for people like you, Alex. Hospitals where you can putter around the grounds and not harm anyone. I was crazy. I'm better now." Thinking that might get another swat with the paper, I covered my head. My mother seems to think that hitting a kid on the head with paper doesn't do much damage. After a minute or two, I decided it was safe to come out. Mom was still standing in the middle of the floor, glaring at me. She reminded me of Miss Ballantyne. If the two of them got together, they could glare your hair on fire. "Tell me something, Alex," she continued. "Just between you and me, do any other animals talk to you, or is Fluffy the only one?" I thought about giving her a funny answer, but I decided not to. She was waving the paper around like it was a bullwhip. "Come on, Mom," I said, trying to calm her down. "I knew it was you. I was just going to let you in." "When, Alex?" she snapped. "When were you going to let me in? After my tail had fallen off?" When she said that, I almost burst out laughing. Suddenly, my whole day seemed funny to me. That happens sometimes. Things get so bad, something inside of you snaps, and you start laughing. "Oh, is that real funny, isn't it, Alex?" Mom asked. "I always think it's funny when I've had a bad day at the office, and I come home with a splitting headache, and I can't find my key, and I ring the bell, and then my son stands on the other side of the locked door and tells me to try to laugh my way in. I can't think of anything funnier than that. Can you?" I'm pretty sure I was supposed to answer, but I still wasn't feeling giggly. I'm pretty sure I wasn't supposed to answer, but I was still feeling giggly, so I gave it a try. "I don't know. Did I ever tell you about the time that Brian Dunlop blew his nose on his sheet? That was pretty funny. See, he was having this dream that his nose was running, and..." My mother let out a loud shriek and stormed past me to the kitchen. I knew she wasn't finished yelling, though. My mother's a marathon yeller. She can yell for 26 hours and never even breathe hard, even with a splitting headache. "You're a real amusing guy. You know that, Alex?" she shouted from the other room as she banged pots and pans around. "A regular comedian, in fact." "Thank you," I whispered so she couldn't hear. "Thank you very much." Then I bowed. "As a matter of fact," she continued, "you're so funny. Why don't you march right up to your room and laugh at yourself until dinner? I waited to see if she was serious. Did you hear me, Alex? March! My mother's very big on marching. It makes her feel like a Marine. I headed for my room. I didn't march, though, and once I got there, I didn't laugh anymore either. I don't know why. I'd guess I just used it all up. I sat down on my bed and put my face in my pillow. After a second or two, my eyes started watering a little. Not bad enough to need a Kleenex, but enough to know the wet was there. I sat up and looked in the mirror. My nose was getting red. My hair was sticking out all over my head. Some star, I said out loud. Some great star. Then I buried my face in my pillow again.